Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Daniel Webster said it best. God grants liberty only to those who love it and are always ready to guard and defend it. Go vote today. No excuses. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday, voting day. Everybody go to the polls. Good morning. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell. Good morning, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. Gee, I feel all alone. There's no one here. There's no one on my log sheet. I mean, 45 people have run away.
Do you feel a little lighter on the log?
It's amazing. All the little smiley faces and zeros and goose eggs I have on my log this morning. And, wow. I mean, what we had to do, and I'll tell you this real quick.
Okay.
We had to make extensions on the log. And, because I have my log set for about approximately 52 entries on a normal week.
So instead of doing it on a regular 8.5 by 11, you had to go to the extended legal size?
Twice. Twice. I mean, when you take 40 some odd plus commercials off of a log sheet, can you imagine? That was like unrolling a script from Queen of Spain. I mean, my goodness sakes.
It's true. And for the people who don't understand, how we actually stack the show and make sure that we fit everything in, you've got to have a log sheet.
Oh, yeah.
So to fit everything in is basically like a tax man's ledger, only worse.
Oh, yeah. And then when you have all these holes, you make little circles with lines through them. And
sometimes a happy face.
Yeah, and now it's starting to look like the Twilight Zone with those eyes looking back at you. Ooh. Yeah. How are you this morning?
I am doing well, feeling much lighter myself, excited to go to the polls today.
Oh, yes, vote today.
Yes.
Do we have a pledger?
We have Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Oh, great. Good morning, Rotten. The pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job, my friend. God bless you and thank you. You and your wife. Is she still wearing her pink hair?
Pardon?
Is she still wearing her pink hair?
No.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
I'm going to go vote now.
All right, Dal. Take care. Thank you. It's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Went by there the other day, as a matter of fact. Busy people, and they've got a lot of the repurposed furniture in there all ready for you, along with all your Christmas decorations. My goodness, it's time to think about that. And they've got all the, like I said, repurposed furniture, and they'll meet or beat any price on flooring. Yep. just stop in and see them today. Really nice people. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And my cell phone's going. Had it in my pocket. I forgot about that. And the number to call, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. Cheney Flooring and Home Design right now. Here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Weather today is brought to you by Gina, who's over on the other side of that board. Where am I going with this? I'm in Las Vegas, so I'm giving you the weather in Idaho. So I'm looking at the forecast, and it's supposed to be calling for cloudy today. So Gina goes, no, it's sunny outside. Oh, gosh, here we go. So with the Magic Valley being what the Magic Valley is, and because of the simple fact that when it comes to weather, so I got a degree in meteorology. What? You know what? Weather can't read. We're going to give you the forecast, but you know it's sunny outside, and they're calling for cloudy today. So it doesn't really surprise me that it's really sunny right now. I'm thinking the clouds are going to develop, but the bottom line is that whether it's become mostly sunny or mostly cloudy, there's no rain associated with our forecast for today. Temperatures today are going to be warmer today than yesterday, 55 for the high. And then the clouds are going to skedaddle out of here, and you're going to have sunny weather with temperatures in the low to mid-60s all the way through Saturday. So the weather today is brought to you by Gina. And as Gina would always say, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. MichaelRogersWeather.com, the best weatherman in the universe, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for their blue door. Hey, by the way, don't forget Thursday's sale day at Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call at the office, 678-9411. And I'm telling you what, folks, Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, they're waiting to serve you. If you're in the livestock business, I'll tell you what, and you've got cattle to go to town, you better get a hold of them for consignments today. 678-9411, Burley Livestock Sale Yard, with their sales starting at 10 a.m. on Thursdays. Don't miss it. They're waiting to serve you. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Go vote today. I don't want any excuses. Please don't give me the excuse that the cat ripped up the couch and we had to stay home and put duct tape on it or whatever. I mean, please go vote. No gripes tomorrow. Just go vote. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Troublemaker.
Well, what do you mean, troublemaker?
Well, you've lost all your sheets, so what else is new? Hey, I wonder what's going to happen when I walk into that place to vote over here today.
Why?
Well, I walked into Smith's the other day and just started to pick up some yogurt, and the lights went out.
Oh, really?
Somebody said, I didn't do it.
You know, Al, you have a penchant for doors that aren't supposed to be open, and all of a sudden some part of your anatomy opens it up and sets off alarms, lights going off in major businesses. Do me a favor, go vote fast, come back home, stay there.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Al. God bless you, man. Thank you.
Right.
Very, very nice people. I love my lunch bunchers. Man, I tell you what, we've got a great bunch of people in Lunch Bunch, as Gina can attest to. They're just really nice people. Hey, don't forget Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And take anything in there that somebody said, oh, gee, you can't restore it. It's worthless. Throw it away. No, don't do that. Before you throw anything away, you better make sure you take it into Kevin and let him take a look at it, and maybe he can clean it, restore it, and then you'll go, wow, am I glad I listened. Well, Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. The best cleaner anywhere, anytime. You stop in and see them today. Absolutely. Oh, and don't forget SafeLink Internet Services. Man, I tell you, I'd be lost without them. Idaho's #1 choice for wireless high-speed internet, and they've got programs starting as low as just $19.95. It is the fastest internet speeds, period. Please give them a call. Tell them I told you to. 677-8000. 677-8000. SafeLink Internet Services, working for you. Oh, okay, vote. Boy, I'll tell you what, there's so many things that are important today on the ballots. And what I thought we would do, and I'm going to take some criticism over this. I always do every time there's an election, but I've got broad shoulders. I'm going to go through the different races and give you my not only predictions, but why I predict they're going to win. And this might offend some people, but that's just the way it is. In the race for governor, quite frankly, I've said it before on this program, some people were very upset. I got a bunch of emails and I had calls and everything. I'll still maintain and stand behind my verbiage that A.J. Belukoff is a one-trick pony. Education is his major developing issue. And that's what he's going to center and highlight most of his time with as far as raising taxes to fund more of his educational values. As far as the wolves, the water, and anything else, I just am not convinced after listening to him on the various debates, etc., that he is nothing more than a one-trick pony. So, I'm not only making the prediction, but I am saying emphatically I think that Governor Butch Otter will be retained for another term. In the lieutenant governor position, I absolutely think that Lieutenant Governor Brad Little far exceeds anybody else that is running against him, whether it's David Hartigan or Brett Marley. Brad Little, absolutely, it'll be a no contest. Secretary of State, there's been a lot of advertisements out there in regards to Holly Woodings becoming Secretary of State. I don't think there is a snowball's chance in the oven that Lawrence Denny will be defeated by Holly Woodings, and she does not have the qualifications, she does not have the knowledge, and Lawrence Denny will be, again, Secretary of State. State Treasurer. Now, I've got my own vindictive feelings about this, and I'm going to be very honest. I don't like the Democratic candidate, and that is Deborah Silver. I think she's very far left-wing. I think she is one of the people that, of course, if you'll remember back to Obama being elected and the Democrats in the state threw around the race card at me, believe me, I've got my own vindictiveness against Deborah Silver. And even though there was a pitfall, and I want to say this emphatically clear so you'll understand where I'm coming from. I think that when people have they made a mistake, they've made bad choices, that they are far better the second time around. I really, honestly, firmly believe that. If you reprimand somebody for something that was done wrong, whether it was a mistake or, and there's a difference here, a bad choice, I think they are much more cognizant of a fresh breath of air to keep their job, and I think that's why Ron Crane will be elected again as state treasurer, way over Deborah Silver. We'll see. I'll have some more in just a minute. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you about all the things that are going on over at Valley White Home and Ranch. We are going to, and I want to remind you about this, on December the 11th, we're going to be over there for a great big remote broadcast for Christmas, and that's coming up on December 11th at Valley White Home and Ranch. And you can stop in right now and check out all the heaters, the heat tape, the propane heaters, the propane, everything you need for the cold weather ahead. Absolutely everything. They've got all your winter gloves, all your winter clothing, they've got all your boots, they've got everything under the sun for you and the family. Yep, all the feed for your livestock, all the material you need for your livestock right there at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Stop over and see these good folks today. And also, Ramsey Heating and Electric. I mean, man alive, these folks have been so wonderful to work with over the many, many years. And I got to get John Paul over here, too. I know Rita's listening right there at her desk. Hey, Rita, have John Paul call Deanne, would you please? Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. And if you haven't had your furnace serviced, ready for the cold weather, so that when you tippy-toe across the linoleum, that when you hit that linoleum, you're not going to go, ah, it's cold in here. Well, make sure your furnace is serviced and and you've got new air filters in that furnace. Okay? They can help you with that at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. In the race for Attorney General, not even a contest. It'll be over before sundown in Dodge City. Lawrence Wasden will win that quite handily. Now the Superintendent of Public Instruction. There have been a lot of people that have said no to Sherry Ibarra, the Republican candidate, and a possible yes to Jana Jones, the Democrat. Now, I have never in my life said that a partisan feeling should take over the fact of who's better for the job. And I've really thought about this, and I've read about these two people and everything else. And I have absolutely mixed emotions about this. Hold on a second, got a cough. Pardon me. Doggone, there's a lot of dust in the air yet for me. But I still maintain that I'd like to see this election be a slap in the face to Barack Hussein Obama. Mitt Romney said it best. He said, today's election is your time as a voter to definitely tell Obama he has been wrong with his policies for the last 6 years. And you know, when I think about what's going on in education today, and I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, so bear with me, but I'll use Mama Obama and her school lunch programs as an example. I will not ever stand up and salute her for what she's done. As a matter of fact, November 13th, I know you think, where is he going with this? November 13th, a group of high school students around the nation started this. They're very unhappy with the school lunch programs because they're hungry. And they had a little bitty 4'11", 92-pound girl on television this morning, a senior at a high school back in Wisconsin, and she says, we can't live on the food that we're being fed. And now they even want to limit these kids to one little bag of ketchup. One little bag of ketchup. And she said, no, that's enough. They're organizing the Brown Bag November 13th day to protest against the lack of food on the school lunch programs with Mama Obama. That's why when I look at anybody with a D next to their name, I finally got back to where I should be. When I look at anybody with a D next to their name, which means it signifies Democrat, I cringe. Because I don't want anybody in office with a D behind their name. That's it. I know there's far more better reasons than what I'm given, but I am so vindictive against Obama and so hateful of his ideology and his policies, stemming from Obamacare all the way on down to what he wants to do with a lack of energy. I don't want anybody in office with a D. I'm being honest with you. Constitutional amendment, we're going to be talking to Representative Fred Wood about this at 9:06. Absolutely vote yes for the constitutional amendment, HJR2. Absolutely. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Gina?
Apparently he had to leave because he's running a business, so he will call back.
My goodness, it was less than 30 seconds away.
I know.
I mean, we've got to have some patience here, my dear. Holy smokes, give me a break.
I know, but I'm sure that he will call back.
Well, I hope so, because, man, I mean, give this old fat boy a little bit more than 30 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry, caller. Call back. Well, now that you've got me all stirred up, I want to remind you about Denny's Restaurant. We were over there the other day, and even Wonder Woman was there. Yes, she flew in. Does Wonder Woman fly anywhere, or does she drive?
No, she's got an invisible jet. So she flies.
Oh. Okay.
And you've got a phone call.
All right. Give him 30 seconds. I'll be right there. Tell him to wait.
Call, wait 30 seconds.
All right. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. My, the food is great. Oh, the service is fantastic. You're going to love breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Don't forget they've got the pumpkin pancakes. Don't forget they've got super nice people, and you can buy gift cards to give somebody you love. 611 Overland in Burley. Oh, my goodness, they're great. Zeb's Lunch Bunch is right there every month at Denny's Restaurant. Caller, don't leave me. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Carl.
When I grew up in a Democratic family,
and you turned out okay.
I didn't realize it until just about a month ago that I became a Republican on my own. I was kind of a kid that I spoke my mind.
Yeah.
Which got me in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But my father was a really strong Democrat and a really strong union member.
As was mine.
And by golly, we had a newspaper in Kennewick that was called the Tri-City Herald, and they was not union, and they paid their employees more than union wages. And the union people wouldn't take that paper. So consequently, every time I went to town, I bought a paper and brought it home.
Yeah.
And Dad says, I don't want that paper in my house.
Oh, my Carl.
And guess what? It kept coming. And I said, you might want to read the news, Dad. He says, I don't need the news. And so I said, this can't be right. So I started looking at the way he was voting.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, my goodness. We can't do this and stay a nation.
Yeah.
I was 8th or 9th grader.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I got to ask you a quick question. Please bear with me, Carl, because I got a hard break coming up here at the bottom of the hour.
Okay, well.
But now, no, I want to ask you this.
A lot of kids are seeing the light and going the other way.
I agree, but stay on the line just a quick second with me. This is a very rude question, but you are how old right now?
I just will be celebrating my 39th anniversary of my 39th birthday.
That's a real good way to say it. But anyway, isn't it funny, though, Carl, our fathers, and mine was a very strong union man, and when all of a sudden some of his neighbors, I never will forget this, they showed the error of his ways in regards to supporting the unions no matter what. I remember my dad would just get furious and walk away from the conversation. They were very dedicated to the Democrats and the unions, and nobody could get their minds out of that channel.
Yeah. I got really against them when they refused to load ammunition to go to Korea.
Yeah.
And our soldiers were there throwing rocks at the Chinese.
Yeah. We could sit down and talk a long time about those days. Hey, Carl, yeah. God bless you, man. Go vote. Go vote.
Oh, I will. You know it.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Nice man right there. Hey, appreciate it. Hey, right now it's time for the Capital Press Ag Minute.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAg.com.
The heavy August rains that caused huge losses to wheat and barley production in parts of eastern and southern Idaho had a small silver lining. The water supply situation in that part of the state has improved significantly since then. What some farmers have called monsoon-like rains, some areas of that desert region received almost 4 inches of rain in one day, sharply curbed the need for irrigation water. Water managers estimated in July that the upper Snake River Reservoir system would end the 2014 irrigation season with about 1 million acre-feet of carryover water. The system actually ended up with almost 1.8 million acre-feet of carryover water. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Browse.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
Okay.
Yes, November 4th for HJR2, a constitutional amendment to keep the power of Idaho governance with the people. Vote yes on HJR2 to limit executive power over you and your business. Vote yes on HJR2 to keep your legislators working for your needs, not special interest groups. Vote yes on HJR2 to preserve the voice of we the people for the state of Idaho. Vote yes on HJR2. Paid for by Representative Fred Wood, House Speaker Scott Bedke, and Senator Dean Cameron. Vote yes on HJR2.
You know, I don't know why I second-guessed Gina, and I got really worried there after the Capitol Press, and I thought, oh, maybe she didn't recall that we were going to run that ad. Nah. I don't know. I should just sit back in my geezer chair with the recliner legs up and say, okay, just run the program, sweetie.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Just let me run the show. I'm good with it.
Well, thank you for all I've done for you, and then to just give me a kick out the back door.
See, I am here for you. I am your support system.
No, I mean that after we managed, and I got to say this, folks, there were ample opportunities, honestly, for both of us to kill each other.
And that ain't no joke. It's not a joke.
But, you know, we laughed through it, which made it, I think, palatable. And
you have to.
But you and the computer, and there were times I had to turn off the microphone because I started giggling so hard.
There were times that I had to turn off my mic, and it's not because I was giggling.
You weren't giggling, honey. I know. There was a leakage on the line, and I could hear some of the words. And I did not know that computer was from a pedigreed family because you went through its family tree.
From MS-DOS all the way up.
Hey, tell the caller I'll be right there. I got to tell everybody about Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness, they got all your equipment for all that you're doing this fall. Cleaning up, fixing up, whatever. Don't forget they got the loaders. Yeah, buddy, they got the great big Doosan loaders, and they got the Bobcats, and they got all the Coyote tractors. Holy smokes, it's a plethora of items over there at all three locations. Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, in South Lincoln and Jerome, and their new, really neat location with Nick and the folks at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You're going to love it. They've got all you need at Berry Equipment and Rental. Stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I just voted, and I had to have my ID, and then I even had to sign, as usual. And you say, well, this is a privilege, and to do this. And when I see these ads for Holly Woodings implying, talking to people that she wants to make it easier for them to vote, or that Lawrence Denny is somehow wanting to restrict voting privileges, it's misleading, because I know Lawrence Denny, and I spoke to him about everything he thinks about it, and that's not, she's misleading the whole thing. But you see, when we're trying to encourage easier voting, then you see it just cuts against everything that really matters.
Yep.
And I just had to go through the process, like I said, and that's the way it ought to be.
Well, let me just ask you this.
It's not that way. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, you bring up and caller number 2, I'll be right there. Don't go away. You bring up easy, the word easy. And like she said, she was trying to make it easier for people to go vote, Holly Woodings. You know what? It wasn't easy when our forefathers had to hide behind tree stumps and fight the British for the birth of this nation. It wasn't easy for the North to fight the South and vice versa. It wasn't easy for all the things that have happened in this country to make America number one. And I'm sick and tired of politicians saying they want to make it easy.
Well, that's just the point. How much do you really appreciate it? And one of the things about some voters, when you go in and you don't even fill out the whole ballot, you understand this occurs.
Yep.
You go in and you vote for like in 2012, you go in and vote for Barack Obama and maybe some other things, but you don't even understand HGR2 or any of this stuff. They just go in and vote for what they want, and then they leave. They don't even fully understand the entire ballot.
I agree with you always. Randy, I got another call and a commercial break. God bless you, man. Thanks, and I know you voted. Thank you very much. Caller, go ahead.
Good morning, Zeb.
Good morning.
Here's my take on AJ.
Okay.
I agree with you 100%.
he's running a dog and pony show, but he doesn't have a dog. And he only has one-trick pony, like he says. And I think, because he's had to use his own money to support this campaign, that the Democratic Party is really not behind him. They did not have a formidable candidate, and he said, let me try. I won't have to put up my own money and everything. What is your take on that?
Well, you know, right now, I am more concerned, and my take is, I don't care who the money came from or didn't come from. I'm more concerned about what's going to happen at the polls today. And I'm going to stand up and say it again. I've mentioned it 2 weeks ago to you, a dear friend that calls this program every day. I said that Balukov, I thought, was a one-trick pony that was trying to make appeasement and inroads with a comfortable segment that he is well aware of how it runs, and that's education. But there's more to being a governor. There's more to running a state. There's more to standing up and doing things. And that's why I said for well-rounded and all the issues, we better look at what we've got versus what we might get.
You're absolutely right. You know, years ago, and I can't remember how far back it was, but the Democratic Party ran somebody they knew wouldn't win, but they had to pick somebody, and they just did not support him or anything.
Yeah.
He went nowhere.
You know,
I had a chance to talk to him, the candidate, and I can't even remember who it was now. But he said, I'm just a sacrificial lamb.
Yep, and there's a lot to that, Keith. Maybe tomorrow or the next day after everything's settled down and we find out who the different winners were, we'll talk more about money and input. And I also want to talk to you, and I'm glad you brought this up this morning, about the influence of, like, the Clintons and the Clinton machine. Very important. Keith, God bless you. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
You have a good day.
All right, sir. Thanks. Caller, I'm going to ask you to stand by just a second. I promise. Hold on. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. Oh, my goodness. We were over there the other day with our dear friends, Dave and Don Zanino. Knock your socks off. Delicious. Holy buckets. It was great. And what a bakery, too. Wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls. And you ought to see their scones. Holy smokes, they're the size of a big elephant ear. And I'm talking about the ear of an elephant. They're huge. Anyway, you're just going to love the food always at Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. You stop over today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Sir.
I listened yesterday to a couple callers about Judge Hodges. So I'd done a little research last night.
Okay.
And there's several steps that families go through before a child is taken away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that one child that it was in the news here, last month. The couple was taken away because the child was in a house filled with feces.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, Doug, a story like that, I've been in this business for 45 years. And when you get a story like that, I don't care how calloused you are. I don't care how old you are. And I'm 67. It just makes me honestly just get so mad. I want to go grab those parents and just beat their heads together for being so stupid.
Right. Now, with that case, just with that case in mind, those parents have a chance to get that child back. They have to go through classes. They have to go and prove that they are eligible and smart enough to raise a child in a safe condition. Not give it a golden spoon and everything it wants, but raise the child in safe home conditions with good parenting skills. So if they go to classes and pass those skills, nobody takes that child away.
But
right now, that child is in foster care.
Yeah, Child Protective Services, yeah.
And it goes through all sorts of, they got to jump through lots of hoops.
But Doug, let me ask you a question there, and I'm just telling this from the heart. I'm not saying it from any educated viewpoint. It's from my heart. Mm-hmm. You can sometimes you can create a solving to the problem by letting people say, "Oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, and we promise this will never happen," etc., etc., and just to kind of put salve or a Band-Aid on the wound. And the minute that you go along with them and let them have that second or third opportunity, bang, it's right back the way it was.
No, it usually doesn't, Zeb. They go through classes, and then after they get the child back, they come make visits, unannounced visits.
Yeah, but look at drug situations. Let's talk about drug situations. You said, no, Zeb, you're wrong. Well, I'm going to maintain that I'm right, that sometimes it's pretty darn hard for the leopard to change his spots and leave him off permanently.
Very true. But there are a lot of families out there that have had their kids taken away, and the parents have stepped up, done a great job, got the kids back, and are doing a great job.
No, I can't argue that. There are cases like what you said, Doug, but then...
They're the most of the cases are like that.
Okay.
The ones that the kids get taken away and adopted out is the parents will not step up to the plate and become an adult and take care of the child.
But, there again, it takes, I think you'll agree with this, it takes conscientious effort on all the parties involved. The people that are appointed by the court to make sure that everything is okay with the parents and they're actually learning something, they're doing something to better their situation. It takes a concentrated effort to make sure they're all pluses and no minuses, because I absolutely would never want to see a child go back into that squalor again.
No, and neither does Human Services, and neither does Judge Hodges. I mean, that's the whole deal. When it comes to Judge Hodges to say yes or no, then they've jumped through all the hoops and have failed to land on their feet.
And I appreciate that, because as you know, the other day I let the people talk and did not voice an opinion on this because I didn't think it was right for me to voice an opinion over circumstances that I personally had not been involved in.
Right, and you were very professional about it, and I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate their calling.
Yeah.
That's what makes our nation great, is able to speak how you feel, but when it comes time to vote and everything, you need to have the facts.
Well,
don't vote feelings, vote facts.
Amen. And Doug, I do appreciate your calling in on this, because there are certain subjects and there are certain things on the ballot and people that for me, and that's why I've excluded some of them, because I do not have firsthand knowledge of certain court cases and how they were handled. It would be totally unprofessional and ridiculous for any talk show host to make a comment when they do not have the firsthand information.
Very true, and that's why I done some research last night. I done some checking and talking to people, and that's exactly what I come up with. I talked to the horse, basically not the horse's mouth, but I've talked to a lot of people that deal with the child protection and that's exactly how it goes.
I appreciate your call as always, my dear friend.
All right.
Thank you, Doug. All right, take care. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser. Have you been in that new store? They got a brand new location. It's right on the square in Rupert. Man, I'm telling you, 502 East Street in Rupert. And Nicole has got so much in there. The sweatshirts and the customized jackets and the caps and everything. And right now, all the buck knives are 10% off with free engraving. Oh, I love those buck knives. You will too. Carhartt jackets are over there, ready to embroider. And I got some of those wooden business cards. They are so doggone neat. They really stand out. And people go, whoa! And they leave them on their desk, not to be thrown away. I like that. Check it out today at Nicole's Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. They're waiting to serve you. And right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hi, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. Forecast calls for clouds, and there's that sun out there, right? So should you buy the stock today? With the Magic Valley being the way it is, I'm going to stay with the forecast.
But, take the sun anyway. Because it's sunny right now, and you got a nice morning, but look for clouds rolling. The beauty of it is there's no rain associated in the forecast. It's going to be cloudy, mainly for today and tonight, and they'll skedaddle out of here today, and you'll have a nice day for tomorrow going all the way to Saturday. Cooler temperatures, but warmer today than yesterday, 55 a high. 32 for the overnight low, and then you'll be low to mid-60s for the daytime high all the way through the weekend. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. You give her a call, 436-2293, or stop in today. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Do not forget to go vote. Please go vote. The minute I'm off this program, zip out to the pick-em-up truck, and we're going to go vote. I hope you do the same. Hey, Gina, are you a big race car fan? Stock car racing, NASCAR?
I watch it sometimes, but I'm not really into it.
I would really imagine that somebody that is, and I mean this in all respect, a grease monkey like you are, that you would absolutely be tuned in and really watching NASCAR every time they have a race on TV.
Actually, no, I don't, but I'm actually into boat racing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now you're scaring me.
I used to race boats all the way through high school.
Wonder Woman with a boat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you hear about the big fight?
No.
Oh, big fight. Big fight on the pits last weekend. Jeff Gordon, little puny Jeff Gordon, and Brad Kozlowski and others, and all their crew got into a big Donnybrook. It was fun watching.
Now, what was this all over?
Well,
I just pulled up the story, and all it says is it's about jealousy. But okay,
it's not just about jealousy. And I'm going to say this, and I think you'll agree with me, even though you haven't had a chance to read the story. When you're on a racetrack and you're competing in a race, I don't care if it's a horse race, if it's an auto race or whatever, your one purpose as being a driver and or rider is to find the open hole and scoot through and go to victory, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Kozlowski came up alongside of Gordon and another driver, and there was a small window of opportunity, and he took it. Took it.
Well, that's what you got to do.
Yep, and Gordon kind of came into him a little bit, and they went back and forth, and he put Gordon in the wall. And Gordon got all bent out of shape because it put him out of the point standings for that race, and they got in the pits, and they weren't, Gordon's crew evidently wasn't tough enough to send Jeff up front. He sent some of his crew members first, and the fists started flying and everything, but I agree with Kozlowski. You're going to be in a race, you're going to get your fender wrinkled a little bit, and you better realize that if there's a hole of opportunity, somebody's going to try to drive through it.
Well, and that's the whole point of racing. It's all about being competitive.
That's right.
If you have that, just a nanosecond of opportunity, and if you've got the guts to go for it, because there is no turning back. You have got to, basically, it is no hesitation. You got to go for it or don't. Don't have any hesitation, because if you don't go for it and you hesitate, then either one, you're going to lose the race, or number two, you're going to get into a worse wreck. And so either if you think it, you do it, you go for it, no hesitation, and whatever happens, happens.
Look at some of the NASCAR races from the past, and I've been around it. I used to go to them back in the Midwest quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And you take let's start with Dale Earnhardt Sr. I mean, he was known as a guy that if you gave an inch to, he would blow you off the track.
Yeah.
And there were A.J. Foyt, many of those guys absolutely had that, and I'll use the word killer instinct, to go through the hole and take the victory. And I don't know why these guys today, they're so mamby-pamby and politically correct. They can't afford to get their shoes dirty. Well, if that's the attitude, don't get in the race.
Exactly. I mean, if you are going to, like you said, okay, so this is race car driving, and all of these cars are tuned to be pretty much on level.
Yeah.
They're all the same. And so what you're coming down to is the ability of the driver.
There you go.
The guts of the driver. And does that driver have the moxie to take those chances and the opportunities. They might only be a split second of an opportunity, but does that driver have the guts to take it? Obviously, he does, where the other two don't.
Well, and the thing is, this is not a new thing where everybody gathered on pit row and maybe exchanged some knuckle sandwiches. It's happened a lot before in the old days, and I've got tapes of fist fights on pit row and everything else. But I'm not advocating the fight. But what I'm saying is when you get in a race, the race is designed for a winner, second place, and third place. Absolutely. And if you can't take opportunities and, quite frankly, chances, and if you do take those chances and something happens and it puts you out of the race and you go, oh, boo-hoo, woe is me, somebody pushed me up against the wall, then you don't deserve racing in the first place.
No, and, okay, so Gordon, because I'm sitting here kind of reading through the story,
and
it says that Gordon was the leader on what was expected to be a 2-lap overtime sprint to the finish. Well, Keselowski restarted the third, tried to wedge his car into the gap between Gordon and Hendrick.
There you go.
And so if he was given the opportunity, good for him for taking that, because that is what racing is all about.
And you know what his owner said? His owner said good for him. Yes.
And he's like, I don't see that he did anything wrong. He's being competitive, and he's doing exactly what he should be doing, and it's getting out there and being a champion and racing.
This political correctness is so stupid in sports, and I'll tell you what it's coming down to. If you let something like this take over, and I know I'm probably stepping way out into the mud, but think about it. Maybe forcing in the future all of them to wear headsets that are intercommunicated with everybody on the track. Excuse me, Mr. Gordon, I'm going to be passing on your left side now. Would you please move over a little bit? That's how dumb this is.
I could honestly see, for one race, I would like to hear that happen. Just for one race.
But isn't it insane?
It is completely insane. But to hear all of the bantering back and forth, kind of like in Talladega Nights, the movie Talladega Nights, and how they're all chit-chatting with each other. I think that would be absolutely hilarious for one race. Just if they opened up the mics for everybody to listen.
I mean, are you going to drive up next to somebody like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Gordon and the rest of these guys and stick your arm out the window and say, oh, pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? I mean, come on!
That would be a funny scenario, but I don't think it would ever happen. And come on, this is NASCAR racing. This is racing at the top-notch professional level. These guys have got to have that competitive edge, and apparently Gordon and the other guys involved just don't have that edge anymore. They're like, oh, well, I had the race.
Yeah, it's crybaby time.
To me, oh, come on, it's real.
Put on your big boy pants and take a few dings in the bumper and fight back. I mean, that's why I'm going to say this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm in a bad mood this morning anyway.
Okay.
But, this is the problem with education today, too, with the bullying problem. Nobody wants to put their big boy pants on and settle it and stop it.
Back when you were going to school and back when I was going to school, it was like, okay, and this honestly happened a couple of times. My brother got into some disagreements with one of them. Actually happened to be our cousin, and they just took it down to the gym. They let the boys put on boxing gloves.
There you go.
And have at it.
There you go.
And have at it. And honestly, I think that's truly what needs to happen.
Amen.
Don't be a crybaby about it. Put on the boxing gloves, settle it out on the playground, and then when you guys are done, shake hands and walk away.
Yeah, and the next NASCAR race, and believe me, there's going to be a lot of people from NASCAR that are going to go, oh, no fighting boys, no fighting boys. Everybody drive out there and be nice. Turn your blinkers on and signal for your turns. Are you kidding me? They should get out there and crunch again and find the holes and pass them.
That's the point of the race, and that's why fans love the race.
Amen. Wait a minute. I got to do like that movie, The Karate Kid. Breathe in. Breathe out. Wax on. Wax off. Now, could we please calmly listen to an HJR2?
You bet.
Thank you.
Vote yes November 4th for HJR2, a constitutional amendment to keep the power of Idaho governance with the people. Vote yes on HJR2 to limit executive power over you and your business. Vote yes on HJR2 to keep your legislators working for your needs, not special interest groups. Vote yes on HJR2 to preserve the voice of we the people for the state of Idaho. Vote yes on HJR2. Paid for by Representative Fred Wood, House Speaker Scott Bedke, and Senator Dean Cameron. Vote yes on HJR2.
I'm calm now. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations. Notice how subdued I am at this time. Well, you just stop in and they've got all the tires for your winter driving. And a lot of tires pinned for studs to get you across all the ice and the snow and the muck. Well, I'll tell you what, along with that, they've got all your passenger car tires, the Ultra Z900 to the Eclipse. All of these tires will get you where you want to go. They've got all your chains, your snow chains, the Quick Fit Diamond chains. They've got the best in batteries, the best in front end alignment shocks and struts. Yes, all of this, including the best in brake service at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pauline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I just had a great idea, Gina. Just a great idea. You there?
Yeah.
What we ought to do is organize a celebrity race between everybody in the media.
Oh, okay. Like at the Magic Valley Speedway.
Yeah, and I'll guarantee you there's 2 people, I think, and this is going to sound like I'm really bragging, but there's 2 people that I guarantee the public right now that would end up first and second, or tied.
Me and you?
Yep. Because if they get on the track with us, knowing your northern Idaho temper and my Midwestern German temper, I'll tell you what, you give us a window of opportunity and they're going to end up spinning into the pits and not coming back.
There'd be a lot of bumping and rubbing going on the track.
I used to race stock cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I raced, the last time I ever raced a stock car was when I came and I used to work for another radio station in Twin, and they had a celebrity race, and I went out there. And I love it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I would I don't care if it's a lawnmower race. Put your helmet on, babe, because we're going to go race.
Honestly, I would love to do the lawnmower races that they have out at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds. I think that would be fun.
I got to calm down now. It's political vote day. Everybody go vote. Okay, see you next hour.
You got it.
Okay. Oh, my. Here we go. Hour number 2. Go vote. No excuses. No gripes at the coffee shop tomorrow. Go vote, please. Take care of that right now this morning, okay? We're going to have a guest with us in just a few moments, but I want to say thank you to everybody. Welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And also some of our great advertisers, which include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. And I'll tell you something, if you'll just call 734-6969 and ask them about the route service that comes to your house, picks up your garbage, look out, it's gone. You're going to love it. You can almost set your watch by these folks. They're right there on time, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, please give them a call today, 734-6969, Western Waste Services. Also want to say thank you very much to our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary. They've been so supportive of our different events, including our Zeb's Lunch Bunch. We really appreciate them. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Hewitt, and we're going to try to get Joel on the air with us, I think, this Thursday if everything fits into his schedule. A family place that takes care of you as a family. And believe me, if you have questions, please call them at 436-5636. They always serve you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please remember the name Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, and the number 436-5636. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to, there's still people that evidently do not understand what HJR2 is about. And we've had some people call. We've had some people confused before they go to the polls. And so while you're getting in preparation today to go to the polls and vote, I have with me Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I am fantastic, and thank you for calling in on Election Day. And Fred, I think what I said a moment ago, I'll stand behind. There are still people that are confused. There still are people that are giving false information. And there are those naysayers that have written letters to the paper and everything in regards to HJR2. And that's why I wanted you on the air this morning, so that you, of anybody, you know this bill, you know what it can do and can't do, and I wanted you to explain it. So I'm going to turn it over to you right now, and go ahead.
Well, thank you, Zeb. I have reviewed some of the letters to the editor, et cetera, that are opposed to HJR2, and I simply think that they're just barking up the wrong tree. They don't understand what HJR2 is about. And to take 2 minutes to recap, when the Founding Fathers, basically who all came from Europe, sat down and tried to figure out what kind of a government it was that we wanted in America to make sure that we did not go down the route of the prerogative or absolute power of kings, or the absolute power of a single executive. They split the government into three parts, as we well know. And the first part was the legislative branch, and that was the part of the government that was charged with making laws. The second branch of government, or the executive branch of government, was limited to the role of implementing the laws, but they were prohibited from making laws or going around the people's branch of government, which was the legislature. And of course, the third branch of government, the judiciary, would sit in judgment of the other two branches,
right,
and then the judgment of the citizens at large, and take care of their disputes, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what has happened recently, and it's just simply gotten worse under the current administration than it has under other administrations. But starting 50, 60 years ago, actually starting in the 30s under FDR, when the legislature wouldn't go along with what a bunch of people wanted, they tried to figure out a way to get around the legislature. Well, they do that with a concept called administrative law. If you sit and look at, let's take the Department of Agriculture, Zeb.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, the Department of Agriculture has to figure out how they're going to set up potato processing inspection stations for the potatoes that come out of the field and other crops, et cetera, et cetera. Well, depending upon what's going on, those rules have to change every year. So you can't have that in statute. It would be too cumbersome. The legislature only meets 3 months out of the year.
Right.
So we have a process whereby the legislature authorizes the executive branch of government to formulate temporary rules on an annual basis, and then in the state of Idaho, those rules then have to come back to the legislature for approval or rejection,
right,
before they become a law. Now, in the rest of the states of the United States, and in particular the federal government, there is not that mechanism. So President Obama just runs around Congress anytime he wants to with rules and regulations through the EPA, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
In Idaho, 25 years ago, the legislature passed a law, and the governor signed it, that prohibited that. We maintain the separation of powers in the state of Idaho, unlike any other state or unlike the federal government. Now, that was immediately challenged, and on a vote of 3-2, the Idaho Supreme Court upheld that piece of legislation. Very famous legislation called Meade versus Arnell. That court case was, anyway. It's worked so well, and it has allowed the legislature to balance the budget and be a good steward of the wishes of the people of the state of Idaho. The legislature decided that it was time to ask the citizens to enshrine that concept into the Constitution. And so that's all HJR2 is. Mm-hmm. We've been doing it in Idaho for 25 years. This is not a power grab, okay, which is what a lot of the naysayers are trying to portray. It's not a power grab by the legislature at all. We've been doing this for 25 years.
Right.
It's working very well. But we don't know who the governor is going to be tomorrow. We don't know who the governor is going to be in 4 years or 8 years or 12 years. What if we did wind up with a governor who decided that he wanted to exert executive power? What if we wound up with an activist court that decided, you know what, we're going to side with the executive branch of government because the executive needs more power than the legislature does, and reversed that ruling? All we're doing here is literally enshrining in the Constitution, which would be much harder to change, and only the citizens can change it, that concept that has been working so well in the state of Idaho for the past 25 years.
Absolutely. You know, it wasn't that long ago that Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, had a op-ed in the newspaper, and I think the last time I had you on the program, I read one of the small sentences that's in this story about HJR2, and I want you to respond because it kind of sums it all up. Most important of all, it assures the citizens of Idaho that their locally elected senators and representatives will be able to protect them from unreasonable or unnecessary rules.
Absolutely, because rules become law.
Yep.
And so that allows the local representatives and senators to protect you from outrageous or overbearing laws that are passed through, quote, rule process.
Right.
Quote.
Fred, why do you think, and let's elaborate on this a little bit, why do you think, is it a lack of knowledge or is there an agenda as to why a lot of these people have tried to denigrate HJR2?
Well, I think the citizens, rightfully so, should, any time that we want to amend the Constitution, Zeb, that's a big deal.
Yep.
And only the citizens can do it, okay? Which is right. No one else should be able to do that. I think that it's a little bit of healthy skepticism. I think there's a big dose, however, of people who are up to mischief because they're just simply dissatisfied with the results of the political process. Mm-hmm. I think there is some of that associated with it. At least in the Magic Valley, I think there will be a positive vote for HJR2. At least that's what I'm picking up downtown and on the street. I hope it's that way statewide. But I think it's a little bit of skepticism. It's a little bit of not being sure of what it's all about. It is a very dry subject. It is a detailed subject. It's not an exciting subject at all when you talk about the Constitution, at least in most people's minds. So I can understand why a lot of people haven't paid attention, and therefore then when it comes time to vote, they all of a sudden are saying, well, what is this about? etc. And I think that's what we're running into.
Fred, now that you're here on the air this morning, and I don't know what the inclinations are at the various polling places. I haven't had a chance to get my hand on the pulse and see what's going on. But I certainly hope and pray that we see, I'm hoping, honestly, for about a 38 to 40% turnout. Even that is terrible, but a lot better than a 23 or 22%. What are your thoughts on the voter turnout today?
Well, 2 or 3 of the statewide races are certainly close enough that voter turnout could determine the outcome. I was looking at the Ibarra-Jones race and Real Clear Politics. Apparently there's 10% undecided, and they're literally within 1 point of one another. Well, I can tell you right now that it's pure turnout that's going to determine that, okay? That race will be determined by turnout and nothing more or less than that. Secretary of State's race is actually close enough with the number of undecideds that are in it that it could actually turn on voter turnout. So, it's crucial. I would encourage everyone to go vote.
Let me ask you this. Mitt Romney made a comment yesterday, and I found it very provocative. He said that today's election is your time to definitely tell Obama he has been wrong for the last 6 years. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think this election is about the president and his policies for the last 6 years. And certainly a significant turnout on the side of the Republicans would indicate that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think he's correct.
There's other issues that are coming up, and I know you don't want to specifically talk about any one certain race or whatever today, but I do want to talk a little bit about Obamacare, and you, of anybody, was very vocal against it like I was at the inception, and now we're finding so many hidden things in Obamacare. A little bit later on this morning at 10:30, I'm going to have Dr. Elena George back on my program from Atlanta. She's been outspoken critic of Obamacare and some of the hidden things that are in the packages and pages, including possible gun control. And I just wanted to know if you'd comment on that.
I sure would, and I'll comment on it, Zeb, in the realm of HJR2. So we get 3,000 pages of legislation, and then we get 20,000 pages of rules. Now, if Congress had the ability to do the exact same thing with those rules that the Idaho legislature has been able to do for the last 25 years, we wouldn't have Obamacare. Okay? There would be absolutely zero rule associated with Obamacare, and we wouldn't have Obamacare. And that's the exact reason that every single voter in the state of Idaho should vote for HJR2.
I agree.
But that's exactly right. I mean, when Nancy Pelosi said we have to pass it so we can read it and see what's in it, you can't even determine what's in it from those 3,000 pages if Congress had actually sat down and read it ahead of time, because they had 20,000 pages of rules that came after that, which had the effect of law. And that's crazy. I mean, no one in the right mind would have ever passed anything.
Absolutely. Fred, looking at this thing on a national basis right now, let's just assume that the Republicans take over the Senate, and they already have control of the House, and it looks like they're going to be gobbling up more seats there too. What does this do to the pen and the phone of Barack Obama? Does it back him into a corner like a coward rat? And does it make him strike out with a vengeance and on energy policies and other things absolutely say that he's going to act like a dictator. What are your thoughts for the next 2 years with this man?
Well, I'll tell you what worries me for the next 2 years, okay? 2 years from now, there are something like 26 Republican senators up for re-election and 10 Democrat senators up for re-election. Mm-hmm. Now, I can tell you, if the Republicans are stupid and start playing games and decide that we have a continuing resolution that is up for renewal on December the 11th. Well, if Ted Cruz has his way and shuts down the government over Christmas, how many Republicans do you think are going to be reelected 2 years from now in the Senate?
No, I agree.
So the whole idea here is the Republicans had better get their act together and quit worrying about Obama, and they have the House and the Senate if we take over the Senate, and hopefully we will. What they'd better do is to sit down and make peace among themselves and then say, okay, how do we go forward so that we can solve the problems of the people and capture the White House in 2016.
Okay, but now, Fred, therein lies the problem, because I'm sure that if you had a blueprint for success on that, I don't care who it is, Mitch McConnell or Boehner or anybody should welcome you with open arms to help settle it. How are we going to get them to sit down and try to settle this strife?
I don't know, but we're going to have to do that. We have to stop this bickering and fighting and arguing and I'm right and you're wrong based on, I mean, you and I have both heard the craziest things of why somebody is wrong and somebody else is right.
Right.
And all that stuff's got to stop, Zeb. I mean, everybody, we have to go back to the Reagan principle of you're a Republican, then fine. Let's all sit down here and let's all talk about whatever, as opposed to this, well, this half is not really Republicans or whatever.
I agree.
That's got to stop.
I totally agree. Once again, today is voting day, and I'm going to ask you if you would please urge everybody to take the time, 10 minutes, to go to the polls and vote.
I think it's critical, Zeb, and I really do implore your listening audience out there, find time to go vote today. The polls are open till 8 o'clock tonight. The polls are open during the noon hour. Almost every single person can find the time to go and vote, and I would encourage everybody to do that.
All right. Representative Fred Wood, dear friend, thank you so much for being explanatory about HJR2 and why everyone should vote yes. Thank you very much, Fred. God's blessings to you.
Thanks, Zeb, and God bless all your listeners, and have a good day, and go vote.
There you go. Thank you very much. There you have it. Go vote. Representative Fred Wood, and I appreciate him being on the program this morning. Oh, we got to pay some bills. Don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. And don't forget, they've got all the Christmas decorations over there. Mm-hmm. And they've got a great big shipment of repurposed furniture. And as I said the first hour, they will meet or beat any price on flooring. So please stop by and see these good folks today. Really am so appreciative that are on sponsoring our weather early in the morning. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for their blue door. Let's see, what else have I got here real quick, and then maybe we'll visit with Gina just a little bit. Oh, yes, let's not forget our friends at Let's Ride. You'd better believe it, where the fun is sold. Man, they have got everything over there, all the snowmobiles. Now, I know a lot of you. I just heard a guy yesterday. He was chomping on the bit. He says, let her snow. He couldn't wait to get all geared up and dressed up and head for the hills. Well, I'll tell you, Let's Ride. They've got all the 2015 snowmobiles and all the accessories. And by the way, now's a good time to get all your watercraft serviced and also your ATVs. And they've got snow plows for the ATVs over there at Let's Ride too. So check all of this out at Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Yep, where the fun is sold. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Deb. I wanted to call in while Fred was talking, but I didn't want to interrupt him. But, you know, when he was talking about the Republicans getting their crap together, or their act together, I mean, what worries me is as long as Boehner's head of the Congress, they won't get their act together.
Why do you say that? I need to ask you. Why do you say that about John Boehner? Be more explanatory.
He has no backbone. I don't think he has a backbone. I don't think he has courage.
Who
to do the job.
Who would you say?
Do what we need done to bring the House together with the Senate. And what worries me is who's going to, if the Republicans take back the Senate, who's going to lead the Senate?
Yeah.
Do you think it's Kyle?
I honestly don't know who would be the Senate Majority Leader, but I want to back up a little bit, and I want to pin you down a little bit on Boehner. I don't like the man myself, and I've got some personal reasons as to why I think he's kind of milquetoast and easily stepped on. I think right now, and you might not agree with this, but I think right now the day and age for everybody sitting around the campfire and singing Kumbaya and making chocolate s'mores is over. We have two distinct parties and two distinct platforms. One, I will come right out and say the Republican platform I think is more geared for families, and it's more geared for moral values in this country. As I look at the Democratic platform with the gays' rights and the abortion issues and everything, I can't abide by that. And we've got two distinct parties, and they're so afraid to make ripples in between them that nobody has any backbone.
I totally agree with you, and that's the problem. Boehner is he's not a leader. He's not strong enough to bring the Republican Congress together to fight the Democratic machine. And I don't know if they put one of the good old boys that's been there 20 years in to lead the Senate, you're going to have the same thing there in the Senate. There won't be any leadership and there won't be any strength. It'll just be the same old. They need to have somebody that is a leader.
What they need right now, and I've got another guest coming on in just a moment, so I hate to be rude, but I'm going to have to go with my next guest. But I just want to say this quickly and have you respond. Right now, we need somebody that's going to sit in the background and say, enough of this good old boy stuff. Let's try to work for the American people and the Constitution and forget all this, let's go have a beer out in the east lawn of the White House. I want somebody that's going to work for you and me and our families for the future, and no more of this glad handing over a beer and a burger at 5 o'clock.
I agree, and I think that we need leadership like some of these younger fellows, like Lee, or I can't remember names, I'm getting old, dang it, but some of the younger congressmen and younger senators that don't need to scratch each other's back.
Amen.
Because they haven't been there long enough.
I agree. I hate to be rude. I got my guest waiting. Okay. Thank you. God bless you for your call. Okay. Go vote. Go vote. Bye-bye. Thank you. Don't forget, real quick, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Yes, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They know all of these different categories for the protection of you and your family and your business. Be sure and give them a call, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Absolutely the best. They're dedicated and responsive to your needs. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Oh my, I am so sorry I kept this gentleman waiting on the line for a few moments, and I'd like to say good morning to Dr. Lamero. Good morning, Dr. Gerard Lamero. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. It's great to be with you, Zeb.
Well, it's my pleasure, and you probably heard a little bit of our conversation. A lot of people are upset and want more of a definitive action taken in politics so that our politicians start abiding by the Constitution and starting to work for us and not be so concerned about the good old boy network back there on the Potomac. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are 100% with you. I heard you for a couple of minutes there, and I totally agree with you. I mean, we're all about freedom. This is America, and our freedom is being trampled on and taken away by these progressive socialist, Marxist, wealth redistributors. That's not America. America is freedom. It's economic opportunity. It's economic freedom. It's free enterprise. Let's get the government out of the way, and our country will do great on its own.
I hope you don't mind if I call you by your first name, Gerard, if that's all right with you, because I'm pretty blunt on this program. And
you can call me anything, but don't call me progressive.
All right, there you go. You are the author of Renewing America and Its Heritage of Freedom. I've got to get a copy of this book. And you have a lot of the same thoughts that I do, that business needs to be revived, and businesses create jobs. It's certainly not the government, and business has got to start thriving, or we're never going to make a comeback in this country. Go ahead and elaborate from that point on.
Well, you know, right now our economy is kind of anemic and sickly, and the jobs it creates are the minimum wage jobs, and a lot of the good ones have been outsourced. You know, these days, even the companies are outsourcing their headquarters from the U.S. because of our terrible corporate policies. I'm talking about corporate tax policies in this country, where we're ranked 32 out of 34 industrialized nations. That's terrible. But if you look back at the last great president, that was President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, his administration during those 8 years created 17 million new jobs, not directly by the government creating them, but by getting out of the way. Reagan's program was to cut the growth in government spending, cut marginal tax rates on labor, cut marginal tax rates on capital, cut the terrible regulatory nightmare that we're living through, and cut growth in the money supply instead of this qualitative easing that's another way of inflating the economy.
Gerard,
so during Reagan's administration, the real median household income rose 11%.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Let me ask you this question. Let me interrupt you and ask you a question right at that juncture. You know, where do the liberal left, where do the Hillary Clintons, where do all these people come up with these zany ideas that government is the panacea, the one-all catch-all for everything, and government is going to create prosperity for everybody around the United States? Where do they come up with these ideas?
Well, you know, the great economist Hayek from the 20th century wrote a book that's famous called The Fatal Conceit. He says it all goes back to conceit. They think if they go to the so-called best schools in the country, that they're smarter than all of us people put together in the market, and they can make the right decisions for everybody. But we know the reality. The reality is whenever the government runs something, it's a disaster. Look at the Obamacare website. Is there anything more foolish than that? They have spent, according to the numbers I've heard, $2 billion to create a website.
Right.
I'll tell you something. Most websites don't cost $2 billion, and most websites work. Theirs doesn't even work right.
What are your thoughts, Doctor, in regards to the minimum wage? You touched on it a few minutes ago, but you didn't really highlight and elaborate. I want to just state my opinion, and you tell me how much I'm wrong. I've got big shoulders. Number one, I think that the raising and the ever-increasing of the minimum wage to 10, 12, 15 bucks an hour is nothing more than an incendiary, inflationary device that will throw everything into a tailspin and eliminate a lot of jobs and really hurt permanently a lot of small business owners. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. I mean, all the economic studies, all the data, anybody who's got an open mind will see that when you raise the price or the cost of labor, It may help one or two people, but guess what? There are a whole bunch of people that aren't going to have jobs because the businesses can't afford it. I mean, businesses don't get to print money like the government. If they don't have enough money, they go bankrupt. And that's simply what's happening. Or they're going to replace people with robots, with automated systems. They're going to do what they can do to lower their costs. And besides, how many people want to see a hamburger go up to $15 a hamburger?
Right.
You know, people run out of money when you inflate, the cost, and then you have to inflate the dollars, and most people can't afford the $15 or $20 hamburger, so they're not going to buy it. Well, and what happens? You lose jobs.
Absolutely.
The problem with the socialists and the progressive socialists, they're just not in economic reality. They live in a fantasy land that they think they're smarter than the market and they're smarter than all of us put together. And guess what? They're always proven wrong.
Well, you know, when you talk about the minimum wage, and I look at, and I'm not trying to denigrate anybody's job, whether they sweep floors at McDonald's or if they're burger flippers at Wendy's, I don't care what they do. There is a position in life for entry-level jobs that should not pay you a wage that's equivalent to living full scale for 4 people in your home. It's a job that's an entry-level job that hopefully you'll propel yourself through your education to become a better citizen and escalate your income. Whatever happened to entry-level jobs?
Well, you're 100% right. Your thinking is right on economically. And that maybe you should have been an economist, although from what I hear in Idaho, you're awfully good on the radio. But you're 100% right economically. And by the way, I'll tell you something else I learned long ago in my study of socialism, to be able to talk to them and try to help them understand the world. And that is, they don't want to debate economics. They ignore economic theory, they ignore economic reality, they ignore all the economic studies. What they do, and the way they win elections, is they trash their opponent's character because they can't debate us. They lose the moral arguments, they lose the economic arguments, and they certainly lose the arguments about liberty and freedom.
Doctor, we've got a caller with a question, and if you have trouble hearing it, just let me know and I'll paraphrase it. Go ahead, caller, please.
I'd like him to comment about the destructiveness of these so-called free trade agreements. Been really one-sided, and he's probably aware of the new trade agreements being negotiated by our State Department with the European Union, which will actually politically and economically combine us. It has very little to do with free trade, and I would like him to comment on that. And we have another one with the Pacific Rim countries that's being pended. And then, isn't trade supposed to be negotiated with by Congress and not the State Department? I think that's part of the Constitution, that their responsibility. So I'd like him to comment about these detrimental effect of jobs and so forth on these trade agreements.
All right. All right, thank you. Doctor, if you would please respond to the caller's question.
Well, first of all, in general, about the question of Congress versus the State Department, Congress has abdicated its authority largely in creating these 2,000, 3,000 page-long bills. They haven't specifically told agencies what to do. They basically are letting an unelected bureaucracy run this country in many of these agencies. So the first thing I'd say is I agree that trade should be something that government has a hand in when it's international because it involves other countries, but it should be specific and it should be oriented toward economic freedom for all sides. Economic freedom is the way to prosperity and economic growth and economic wealth. America became the greatest economy in the world, not by being overregulated, but by letting the government stay out of the way and giving us our economic freedom. And so I would say free trade, if it's done properly, is an economic plus. And properly means that both sides have economic freedom. And why should the government even be regulating that? I mean, why shouldn't you be free to send your goods and services overseas if someone wants to buy them there? And certainly there shouldn't be tariffs to get in the way and to give one side an unfair advantage. So I'm for free trade if it's
goes along with free system, a free economy.
All right, we have another caller with a quick question, and then I've got another question before we wrap it up. Go ahead, caller, please. You're on the air.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the minimum wage for a minute, if you don't mind. If they raise it to $15 an hour, and I'm making $16.50, I take a big pay cut. But then how's that gonna affect everybody who's worked real hard to get going in their life and put forth the effort to learn or take the time to advance? Are we going to end up getting a pay raise too, do you think, through economic, cost of living, or is it just going to pretty much shut us out? And that's what I'm afraid of.
That is an excellent question. And, Doctor, I think the snowball effect comes into play here. For those that are making $16, $17, $18 an hour, and then all of a sudden you escalate the minimum wage to, let's say, $15, what about the other people? They're going to demand a wage increase. We're going to see inflation go to 25 to 30% minimum.
Well, it can have an inflationary effect, but it can also have the opposite effect. The people making $16 an hour may not see a pay raise for 10 years because the company can't afford to give anybody else a pay raise.
That's right.
Let's face it, people should work at the jobs they want to work at, and companies should hire people at the value, the cost, that they can afford given what value is being created. We're dealing with value here. If a minimum wage worker, they always say hamburger flipper or whatever, if they are creating X amount of value for the company, they should be paid X. Why should the government say that this job is worth $15 an hour and ignore the people who are making $16 an hour? Why should the government be involved in that at all? And by the way, in a free market, if somebody thinks, let's say they're making $10 an hour, flipping their hamburger, and they're not happy with it, well, guess what? Why not work hard and become a manager? Why not go to college, get some college classes, and do a better job? Become a programmer and make $50 an hour. You can do quite well in this country if you work hard and set yourself some goals. But you don't just walk out of high school and suddenly get paid, what Bill Gates earned starting his little company called Microsoft and growing it. So what I'm saying here is that the government shouldn't get involved in wages and setting wages. Every time we've had wage controls, we've had problems. And you're either going to get inflation, or you're going to get the economy knocked down, or you're going to stifle growth and you're going to stifle other people's wages. Whatever it is, it isn't good.
Let me ask you this, Doctor, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. With the wave of progressivism in this country, and 2 more years left of Obama, and then waiting in the wings on the Democratic ticket, and I believe she's going to run as Hillary Clinton, we're looking at possibly the demise of capitalism. How are we going to get our younger generations to espouse to the fact that we've had the best in the world for over 200 years and we're about ready to lose it?
Well, that's a terribly difficult problem to solve. The way I decided to do it was to write this new book, Renewing America and Its Heritage of Freedom, what freedom-loving Americans can do to help. We can all help, but we've all got to get active. The people who go after the government jobs and the people who want to run this country, they tend to be progressives and socialists these days because they're coming out of universities with an awful lot of Marxist professors who are teaching that, and they've bought into it. We have to stand up at the school board level. We have to stand up everywhere we turn and say, I want freedom, I want economic freedom, and all the history and all the data indicate that economic freedom brings prosperity. And our languishing economy right now is a result of too much progressive legislation that is actually hurting the economy substantially. I mentioned earlier about companies wanting to move their headquarters overseas because it's no longer an economically free country. We've got so many regulations, 500,000 new public notice types that are related to regulations have been issued in about the last 20 years. Basically, we've got to get out there and educate, and all of us have to stand up for our freedom. Whatever the freedom is, if it's the freedom to start a business, if it's the freedom to pick out patriotic books for our children to read, We had a school board down here in Colorado where we got a whole bunch of conservatives elected, and they're putting up a patriotic curriculum for students. And boy, are the progressive socialists going nuts over that. The idea of teaching patriotism and free enterprise in schools, they're going off the wall.
Yeah, but you know something, Doctor?
We got to do that.
Absolutely. Today, though, is such a perfect day for you to have time to elaborate on these things, because I'm just going to come right out and say it, even though I don't want it to come true. I'm so afraid that we're going to look at a lackadaisical, poor performance by the American public of not going to the polls and maybe seeing only a 22 or a 23% voter turnout. My goodness, today is the day they should be there in droves.
Absolutely. You know, I think the progressive socialists, Marxists, communists, all that bunch, I think they represent the hardcore about 15% of the electorate and of the country. And I think freedom-loving Americans represent about 85%. So what that tells me is that if we want to win any election, dog catcher, county commissioner, president, senator, you name it, we can win any election we go out and vote. If freedom-loving Americans vote, we can have freedom-loving American leaders who take the Constitution seriously, live by it, and make sure and protect that all of us have our freedom. And that's what we need to do. If we sit back and let the country go on cruise control and think all the freedom-loving Americans can sit home and you know, love their children and earn their living, and we ignore government, guess who's going to get elected? All those who don't care about freedom, all those who think the Constitution is outdated. And liberty is never outdated.
Now tell us quickly, please, sir, where can people obtain your book, Renewing America and Its Heritage of Freedom?
Well, certainly Amazon is where I think most books are sold these days, and so that's always a good place to get it. But it's available on lots of other websites. I've seen it on, I think, Barnes & Noble, and you know, it's available anywhere that books are. It's also in Kindle, if you like reading them on Kindle and other electronic readers. Everybody can get it. You can also go to my website, RenewingAmericaBook.com. That's the quick way to get there, RenewingAmericaBook.com, and you don't have to figure out how to spell my name.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you, you're a breath of fresh air this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Gerard Lameiro, with the book Renewing America and Its Heritage of Freedom. Thank you, sir. God bless you, and please come back and talk to us again.
I'd love to talk to you again. God bless you, and thanks for all the great work you're doing in Idaho.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. I've got to get a copy of that book, Renewing America and Its Heritage of Freedom. A very nice gentleman talking about how the socialists and the progressives are just running everything right down into the ground. And author Gerard Francis Lameiro with his book, Renewing America and Its Heritage of Freedom. Going to have him back. Time for the weather forecast, and the weather is brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. All of this and more through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hi, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. You know, forecast calls for clouds, and there's that sun out there, right? So should you buy the stock today? You know, with the market value being the way it is, I'm going to stay with the forecast. But, you know, take the sun anyway. You know, because it's sunny right now, and you got a nice morning, but look for clouds to roll in. The beauty of it is there's no rain associated in the forecast. It's going to be cloudy mainly for today and tonight, and they'll skedaddle out of here today, and you'll have a nice day for tomorrow going all the way to Saturday. Cooler temperatures, but warmer today than yesterday, 55 at the high. 32 for the overnight low, and then you'll be low to mid-60s for the daytime high all the way through the week. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Brought to everybody this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. As I said, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Yep, the best. Call them 678-0459. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, I was going to have you comment on that deal I was talking about earlier about the students. Did you hear about that protest that's being organized?
No, I was having to deal with Conway Kitty.
Conway Kitty?
Yeah, the station cat. Remember?
Okay, yeah, the cat that likes to surprise you and jump up in your lap when you least expect it.
Him.
And your eyes bug out, and fortunately he doesn't have a lot of claws. But yeah, I was commenting. I want you to give me your opinion on this this morning, because I think it's great. I saw a young high school girl. Actually, she's a senior, back in a high school in Wisconsin, I believe. And this gal is a senior. She's 4'11" and weighs 90 pounds. She's just a little bitty cute girl. Well, anyway, she is mad. She is smoking mad at Mama Obama and the government because she said our hot lunch programs at our schools were not getting enough to eat. She says, I get fed the same as some great big burly 265-pound football player, and they're starving to death. And then, to make matters worse, they even cut them back to one little packet of ketchup. And they said they've had enough, and they're organizing November 13th as Brown Bag Lunch Day, and they're going to fight back at the government. Amen.
Amen, sister. And even if she is like, 4'11" and not even a buck.
Amen.
Well, good for her. Way to stand up.
I love it when these kids, and they're doing it in the right way. They're telling government that, hey, listen, wait a minute, we're starving to death. And she said, I go to lunch and about 1:30 in the afternoon, I'm so hungry I can't concentrate on my studies.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, these kids need nutrition. Their brains are still growing. Even at high school, a lot of these kids are still growing. They need the nutrition. And if we expect them to be contributing members of society and to finish high school, they need food so they can think.
Amen. I think we got a caller. We'll take it real quick. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, more power to her. Dynamite comes in small packages. Hey, Deb,
True.
I just went over and voted, and if anything's indicated from what I've seen over there where I vote, look out, because, man, we're going to have a turnout crowd because that place has never been that packed, and I've voted over here since 1974.
Oh, I am glad to hear that.
Look out.
Thanks, Al. I do appreciate that information. Thank you very much. Once again, everybody go vote. Please, very important today. Customer appreciation sale at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Don't forget, it's one night only. It's going to be November 5th, tomorrow night, from 5 to 9 p.m. Everything is on sale. Hello, John Paul. John's here fixing the lights. Hey, by golly, I'll tell you what, everything's on sale, and you can enter to win $50 gift cards, all kinds of good things at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You can save money on everything, on sofas and love seats and sectionals and all the bedroom pieces, queen mattresses set starting at just $199. All of this at a big customer appreciation sale. One night only at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them for this big sale at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Okay, did you hear about that University of Arizona professor that's been teaching and preaching to the kids in his class that we, the United States, are the worst country ever in the history of the world? Honestly, when I heard this story this morning, I wanted to just reach out and touch somebody like AT&T and right on the end of his beak, right on the end of his nose. You know, I am so sick and tired of people running this country down. I am so sick and tired of these nitwit professors that have never done anything, been anywhere, or ever accomplished anything except standing up in front of a group of students and trying to influence their mind the wrong way, telling them that America is the worst country in the world and worse than ISIS.
What was his reason?
He's one of these liberal knotheads that absolutely shouldn't have a teaching certificate, that is up telling everybody that America's bad. Oh, they're the bad guys in black hats. They're worse than ISIS. That's what he was telling these kids in class. And tell me, Gina, that doesn't permeate into some of their minds to where they come back and try to do something negative against America.
They probably would. Where does this guy teach at?
University of Arizona.
University of Arizona.
I am so fed up with this garbage being taught to our kids about how we're bad. We've got to rewrite history. We've got to sanitize everything. No, we don't. And I'm fed up with it. Yeah, you see, now, last hour, I promised myself I wouldn't get worked up. I broke my promise. My deodorant has been worn off again. Oh, dear.
I'm gonna read this story and look up on it, because it's the first that I've heard of it.
Oh, I tell you what, I saw it on the news this morning, and I told you, it's a good thing I didn't have boots on, because I'd have thrown it right through my 60-inch television.
It says, this is just the headline, Arizona professor claims U.S. military greater threat to peace than ISIS.
Isn't that make you mad?
Yeah.
Our boys and girls that are fighting for us all around the globe, and you've got some dim-wit bulb that's standing up at the University of Arizona condemning us. I'm fed up with this.
Have you seen a picture of this guy?
No.
He looks Middle Eastern to me.
Oh, boy, send it over to me.
I will.
Okay. I got the news next. I'll be back in 6. Oh, wow. Here we go, hour number 3. And by the way, today is Brenda Adams' birthday. Happy birthday, Brenda. Many, many, many more. And don't forget, this is Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley. And Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. You betcha. Well, before we get our guest on, I want to remind you, too, about what's happening at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, what's the special? Well, here it is. Crispy fish wraps. Ooh, with choice of potato super salad. Sounds delicious. Usually you can bet on it. They're always great food specials. And, of course, the menu's always super. The people are super. The environment's super at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Stop in and have a super lunch today. 139 West Main in Burley. Crispy fish wraps with choice of potato soup or salad. Also, I want to remind you, I've been blessed. I really have, because with the surgery on my leg last January and then the rehab, I went to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and his staff. Now, I want to talk about his staff. I mean, you've got Jordan and Jeff and Orlando and Emily and Kelly and Tia and Jared. What a great bunch of absolute professionals over there at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. People that work there know everything of the exercises and all the different comprehensive services to help you feel more like getting back to being you. So please remember the number, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Absolutely the best. Well, he's jealous when you say absolutely the best. He wants to be included, and that, of course, is the one, the only, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
I am fantabulous. How in the world is Dr. History?
I'm doing great, Just up here in Boise visiting my daughter, and so a little ways away from you today.
Well, now take her to lunch.
That'll probably happen, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, now, tell me, every week you get bigger and better with your stories, and we're being listened to all over the globe right now in, what, about 60 foreign countries? And tell us a little bit real quick about dr-history.com.
Well, we're actually in about, like you said, about 55 to 60 countries worldwide, over 70,000 hits on our webpage, and so just seems to grow every week a little more.
All right. And what is the bill of fare for today?
Well, before I get started, I just got to give a plug This Friday night at 7 o'clock at the King Fine Arts Center, the Magic Philharmonic have asked me to give a little blurb about the writing of our national anthem.
Okay.
At which point they are going to play the national anthem. So it's somewhat of a patriotic program. This Friday night, my brother happens to be the conductor of the Philharmonic this Friday night. So just a plug, if you want some excellent entertainment, Friday night at the King Fine Arts.
Is he the same brother that studied underneath the great Leonard Bernstein and really learned how to wave that baton in the air?
Oh, he does better than Leonard.
Oh, okay.
He's really good. He really is.
What's his name?
His name's Roger. He's a band teacher out at Declo, and he is, I'm not prejudiced, but he's the best band teacher in Idaho.
And he's got the electronic baton.
He's got it. He's got the moves.
Okay. All right, sir. Who are we going to talk about today?
All right. We're going to talk about mountain men, medicine, or hunting knife surgeons. That's another term for these guys.
Okay.
And so I hope our stomachs are a little bit strong today.
Oh, boy.
As I get into this. But immediately after the Lewis and Clark expedition was completed in 1806, great numbers of trappers and fur traders began to come to the distant plains and mountains in what is now Idaho, Montana, Utah, Wyoming, and, out here, even down into the southwest. But the creeks that drained into the Madison, the Jefferson, and the Gallatin rivers had a huge amount of furs. That was really the kind of the gold mine of fur trapping, if you want to call it. But with beaver hats in style in the metropolitan centers of the world, great profits were expected for trappers and traders. In 1830, beaver pelts were selling for $6 per pound in St. Louis, and each adult pelt weighed about 2 pounds. So, if you do the math, in a good season, two partners might trap as many as 1,000 beavers, and by the standard of the times, became rich men. In other words, $12,000 between the two of them, $6,000 each for one season.
Yeah.
Now, back in that time, 1830, $6,000 was a pretty healthy sum.
Absolutely.
So, in addition to its promise of wealth, the West was the setting of, colorful legends of noble adventure men such as, John Coulter, Manuel Lisa, Jim Bridger, Hugh Glass, Jed Smith, William Sublett. And these guys, they had exciting lives, and as the stories were told, people would hear these stories and they'd think, boy, we got to head west. So this was kind of an invitation when they heard these great adventure stories. So some men, prepared and maybe not so prepared, headed west. But, it's doubtful that anyone gave much thought to the health or the welfare of these adventurers. Neither the men themselves really thought much about their health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each person chose his own trail and could not foresee how his passage would proceed, and survival depended on the weather, the Indians, and a lot of other unpredictable factors. Now, every man was expected to travel light, live off the land, and look out for himself. So the trappers' fixins, or bare essentials, if you want to call it that, left no room for medical supplies. So the typical outfit included a powder horn, a sack of musket balls, a flintlock pistol, a .50 caliber gun, a knife with an 8 or 10 inch blade sharpened to the hilt, and a leather sack that contained in all extra flints, some extra powder, and maybe some tobacco, some sugar, some coffee. But the trapper supplemented his provisions at the annual rendezvous, where liquor was the most popular item for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've talked before, alcohol was kind of the trapper's overall panacea for medical problems.
Absolutely.
So it was the only anesthetic available, and most illnesses responded to alcohol.
It was Obamacare in a bottle.
That's right. Medicine in a bottle. I don't know if they just drank enough to where when they woke up they were either dead or better. I don't know. But whiskey was used in conjunction with sweat baths, herbal remedies, and many other treatments. And in addition, coal oil was highly prized as a liniment, and bear grease. Bear grease was actually used on wounds. They would just put it all over to cure all kinds of things. And sometimes they'd take it internally to kind of help with sluggish bowels, which I imagine it worked pretty well.
I'll tell you, they had the screaming hurry-ups for a long time.
But anyway, the Mountain Men remedies were copied from a lot of the Indian cultures. That's where they got some of their things. But,
okay.
You know, most trappers camped alone or in small groups, except during the really bitter cold winters. And they were kind of nomadic, so they were seldom exposed to infectious disease. I mean, think about it. Back then, the rivers and the streams were clean. They weren't contaminated with cholera or typhoid. But the risk of injury or death from exposure, violence, and accidents was high.
Yep.
You know, as I mentioned a week or two ago about James Ohio Patty, out of 116 men that accompanied him into the Southwest, only 16 survived after a few years.
Wow.
And, of course, there were exceptions, of course, like old Jim Bridger. You know, he lived to be 77 years old, which was pretty unusual for back then.
Mm-hmm.
But... you know, back then, again, the Indian tribes, they weren't too happy with all these guys coming out. And just an endless stream of strangers coming into their midst. And so a lot of unlucky or unwary trappers lost their lives to the Indians. But it's also interesting how often the natives, how often the Indians actually would help people. There was a trapper by the name of Potts, and when he was in the Wind River Valley, he became separated from his companions and froze his feet. He was unable to travel.
Oh, boy.
And he was rescued by some friendly Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Indians knew a lot of times better how to handle things in the climate because that's, of course, where they lived. But along with other dangers, the frontiersmen encountered a lot of ferocious bears. Now, one early trapper, a guy by the name of George Yount, said he sometimes killed 5 or 6 bears a day and sighted as many as 60 in 24 hours.
Holy smokes.
Now, you think about going up into Yellowstone, and, you know, you never see a bear anymore, hardly up there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, in Jedediah Smith's famous grizzly story, after being badly mutilated, he talked a young companion through the procedure of sewing up his extensive scalp lacerations and replacing one of his ears. I don't know if he got him even or not. Undoubtedly, the first recorded plastic surgery in the West afterward, you know, Smith got back on his horse and rode to camp.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, another legendary story was that, which I've told before, is of Hugh Glass, who was mauled by a grizzly, but managed to kill it with his hunting knife. And this was the guy that a day or two later they thought he would die, and he was left with Jim Bridger and another guy. And they thought sure he was going to die, but they took off and left him. And but that's a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
But anyway, exposure to this extreme weather, the bear attacks, other dangers regularly threatened the trappers. And the most serious injuries that they had were usually gunshot and arrow wounds.
Really?
In fact, one guy says he met a trapper who had in his chest he had 6 scars from bullets and arrows. One of his arms had been broken by a shot, and one of his knees shattered. But that was just common for trappers to have all these old wounds. One old-timer described how his partner, a guy named Dick, survived an attack by the Pawnee Indians. He said Dick was as full of arrows as a porcupine. One was sticking right through his cheek, one in his, he calls it his meat bag. Now, I'm not sure what that means. And 2 more coming out of his hump ribs.
Oh.
And he says, I took them all out, and away we went to camp.
I don't think we'll pursue that one location.
I'm not sure where that was, but anyway. But, you know, not all wounds were inflicted by hostile Indians. I mean, trappers were a rough bunch. They were ready to fight among themselves. And the often-told tale of frontiersman Mike Fink and his friend Carpenter kind of illustrates this point. Well, Fink and Carpenter often demonstrated their courage or their marksmanship or their maybe stupidity at trust by shooting tin cans full of whiskey off each other's heads.
Oh, my.
Well, when during this dangerous game, Fink accidentally shot Carpenter between the eyes, well, he claimed it was an accident. But the two had recently been battling over the affections of a young lady, and Fink had lost the contest. Well, another friend of Carpenter's accused Fink of murder on the spot and shot him dead. So that was the end of those 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in addition, accidents involving firearms occurred frequently. There was a guy named Andrew Brodus. His forearm was shattered when the gun he was pulling from his wagon went off. Well, at first he refused amputation, and the only treatment, which was the only treatment to prevent gangrene.
Yeah.
Well, as this mangled arm just got worse and worse, the stubborn man finally relented, and luckily for him, Kit Carson happened to be along. And he was the youngest person in the group, but he was confident beyond his years. Well, he volunteered to do the surgery. So he whetted his skinning knife, found a saw, and prepared a hot fire to heat the shearing tool for the stump, and removed the mutilated arm. And within days, the stump was healed.
Oh my goodness sakes!
Kit Carson, but
and then they found out. Then they found
so when trappers needed medical care, it was often self-administered or administered by untrained companions. And in fact, another guy, after he was struck by an Indian bullet, Peg Leg Smith, a frontiersman in Missouri, he amputated his own leg using a bullet mold as a hemostat, his razor-sharp hunting knife, and a tomahawk to chop the bone. Smith's only anesthesia was a few cups of liquor known as Taos Lightning. So he amputated his own leg, and I guess that's where he picked up the name Peg Leg.
Well, yeah.
Now, in 1838, Osborne Russell. He was an early frontier trapper and later a judge and a cattleman, and he also doctored his own wounds. He was camped with a few friends near Yellowstone Lake when the party was attacked by Blackfeet Indians, and Russell was hit with 2 arrows, which he immediately pulled out and managed to escape. And he wrote, "My leg was very much swelled and painful, but I managed to get along slowly on crutches." And later he says he bathed the wounds in salt water and made a salve out of beaver oil and castoreum. And he says it eased the pain and drew out the swelling. And, of course, he survived his years as a trapper and lived a long life. Now, Osborne Russell, again, this is another story. He was the guy who was involved in that Naked Mountain Man story that I told a long time ago.
Oh, my gosh. I thought you'd forgot about that.
No. So, we might have to retell that story one of these days.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, as self-reliant as the mountain men were, their survival often depended on one another. In the biography of Jed Smith, Smith's fellow trapper saved his life twice. A grizzly had mangled his thigh and would have killed him if his companions hadn't come to his rescue. But he would survive, and within days would be planning another adventure. But there were no trained doctors in the wilderness, and few mountain men passed as doctors. But as I mentioned earlier, Kit Carson was one of the best hunting knife surgeons in the West. Well, Carson taught others how to extract an arrow, and sometimes it was necessary to push it through and cut off the head. Now, if this couldn't be done, and only the shaft was removed, and the arrowhead was left to be cut out later, and other frontiersmen also became pretty good at removing arrows or bullets from their companions.
I see.
Butchered out might be a better term.
I see.
That, rather than surgically removed.
Sure.
But most of the time, the mountain men used good judgment in knowing which arrows to take out and which to leave. Many of them knew something that a lot of doctors didn't know back at that time. In fact, except in very superficial wounds, it's far better to leave the foreign body where it is rather than destroy tissue and produce additional hemorrhage and possibly introduce infection. So the trapper surgeon also understood, as did the Indians, that opening and draining penetrating wounds was required to prevent infection from developing. So anyway, in addition to his surgical skills, Kit Carson had remedies for other things like for lice infections, which were common. Carson, here's what he did. He tossed his clothes onto an anthill, and while the ants feasted on the lice, he washed the miserable bugs off his body in a stream. And by the time the ants were done and he was done, he had clean clothes to put on.
Whoa, wait a minute, stop. He took his clothes off and threw them on an anthill, and the ants ate all the lice, and then he put them back on again and wore them for another 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months a year, just depends on when the lice got bad enough, I guess.
Oh!
So, anyway, there was one guy, his name was Hamilton, had no medical training, but he was so good that mountain men would try to search him out, and in fact, some of the Indians even preferred him over their own medicine men. occasionally.
Really?
So, but the first recorded surgical procedure in the West was actually the removal of an arrow. There was a Spanish explorer who had survived a shipwreck off the Texas coast in 1528, and he and some of his companions were taken prisoners by the Indians, but his journal records the operation as follows. He said, "Here they brought a man to me and said that a long time ago he had been wounded with an arrow through the right shoulder, and the arrowhead was lodged over the heart."
Oh, my.
Okay, so this guy, he says, "I opened his chest. I continued to cut with great difficulty. I finally extracted the arrowhead."
Oh.
He said he bled profusely all over him, and he took strands of animal hair and sutured this guy up. And he said when it healed up, you could not even see the crease where he'd done the surgery.
Now, wait a minute. This guy didn't have any...
1528.
Yeah, but he didn't have any anesthetic or anything.
No. That was 1528. They may have had some of that House Lightning to drink beforehand.
Holy smokes.
Or they just held him down real well, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. But another famous tale of frontier surgery involved Jim Bridger. He had 2 Blackfeet arrows in his back in 1832, and his friend Tom Fitzpatrick was able to pull one of them free, but the other was too stuck. It was too deep.
Yeah.
And so it stayed in there for a long time. It stayed in place until they got to a trapper's rendezvous on the Green River in 1835. So this was 3 years later.
Oh, my.
But it so happened that Dr. Marcus Whitman, who was a physician and missionary, happened to be visiting the rendezvous encampment at that time. And with difficulty and without any anesthesia, Whitman took the arrowhead from Bridger's back, cut it out.
Wow.
So Dr. Whitman, he was kept busy throughout the rest of the rendezvous, extracting arrowheads and bullets from other trappers and Indians. So that kind of sealed his reputation right there. But, some mountain men's survival bordered on the miraculous. According to the stories, many injuries were bad. They were contaminated. And, of course, we don't know how many of these guys died. A lot of them, they were off by themselves and get thrown off their horse, get a broken leg, a broken arm, accidentally shoot themselves, accidentally cut themselves with their knife, and, never to be heard or found or seen again.
Oh, my goodness sakes. One word sums it up. Tough.
What's that?
Tough.
What's that?
I've told you. Listen real clear. I'm going to say it again. Tough.
Oh, yes. They were tough.
Yeah.
Especially if they didn't have any alcohol to kind of help ease the pain of whatever they were going through.
Oh, my goodness. I'll tell you, all those surgeries, you really do not hear about all the people that they might have tried to operate on, per se, that didn't make it.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, there's no stories that say, yeah, we tried to cut that arrowhead out of that guy, but he died.
Well, listen, you go have a wonderful lunch with your daughter and enjoy the day, and we'll look forward to having you back down here next week. Thank you for a very, very good story this morning.
All right, Zeb, you have a good day.
Now, wait a minute. Before you go, tell everybody about Dr-History.com. And,
Dr-History.com. And, I was looking at our stats last night, and there is still nobody in Wyoming that has listened to our story.
Wyoming? Why Wyoming, I wonder?
I don't know. We've got the whole western United States except Wyoming.
Well, we've got to change that.
Somebody in Wyoming.
Absolutely. I'll go to work on it this afternoon.
People over there.
Yep. All right, Doc. I appreciate it. God bless you. Have a super day.
All right.
Thank you. Dr-History.com. And I'll have to call some of my friends over in Wyoming. Of all the states and all the countries, I wonder how come Wyoming. Have to check that out. Hey, don't forget, every Thursday we have a segment on my program called School Days in Cassia County, and we are blessed in having 2 sponsors of that great segment, A Child's World at 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley, and Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. At A Child's World, they've got everything for the baby. They've got everything for the entire family, all the games, books, puzzles, everything. lots and lots of winter clothing. Please stop over and enjoy shopping at A Child's World, 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley. And don't forget, too, life-saving colonoscopies through the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Yes, and you can save hundreds and hundreds of dollars on hand and foot and knee surgeries and eye surgeries like cataract problems. Everything right there. Please give them a call and find out more. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, and A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, bringing you school days in Cassia County on Thursdays. Right now, let's send it back over to our main studios. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. Welcome back. Last half hour, we'll have our guest with us in just a moment. Don't forget Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 west of Rupert. Brand new facility, brand new merchandise, and same great friendly service. That's right, at 112 South, 200 west of Rupert. They've got everything over there. Absolutely all your desks, all your chairs, filing cabinets, tea tables even, along with bunk beds, you name it, it's right there. And a great assortment of knives, too. At Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 west of Rupert. Stop over and see these really, really good folks today at Snyder's Surplus. Also, don't forget, too, Ramsey Heating and Electric offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, you name it, they've got it for you, and all the comfort of Lennox through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. I'm very, very honored and proud to have this lady back on our program again, and she's been here with us maybe 7 times talking about Obamacare over the last couple of years. Dr. Elena George, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, Zeb. How are you?
It's a treat to have you back on the program, and I don't think there's anybody I've had on the show that knows more about what's going on with Obamacare than you do. And I'm going to ask you to start things off this morning, this question. What did we gain by having Obamacare?
Short answer would be nothing.
That's what I thought.
We need to ask what we lost. And what we lost was our autonomy as doctors and our choice as patients. And it's only going to get worse. I mean, I'm not one of the pundits who talk about it. I live it. I see patients every day. And what I've noticed in the last 3 months specifically is that people who carry insurance who are coming to my practice cannot afford to use their insurance because their out-of-pocket costs have gone through the roof. And they've changed how they designate how the money is paid. Last year at this time, if people had a copayment, that's what they paid. And if they had a deductible, it only came into play when I either ordered a test or did a procedure or did surgery. Now it's switched. So now they're on the hook for the entire deductible, just walking in someone's office before you order a test and before their copayment kicks in. So what the insurance companies have done is they've pulled a fast one, a bait and switch, where they're putting all of the onus on the patient and the doctor by default, and it's killing private practice.
You know, Dr. George, I got to be honest with you, as a journalist and also a talk show host, I've been very, and I use this word sparingly and understand why I'm using it, I've been very intrigued as to how this big of a problem, Obamacare, could go through its inception and go into the utilization of the American public, and still the media is so quiet about the pitfalls.
You have to look at the word, follow the money, and look who stands to gain. If you look at the media, and especially if you're watching TV at night, they are supported by drug commercials, various pharmaceuticals, and they're not going to say anything that really tells the truth because that's where their bread is buttered. Mm-hmm. I don't have a dog in the hunt. All I care about is taking care of my patients and actually making sure that I'm their advocate. That's all I care about. And I am being blocked daily from being able to do that, as is any other physician who practices the Hippocratic Oath.
Now, if they want doctors to live in fear, worry about being able to stay open, take a paycheck from a hospital, and as soon as doctors do that, they lose their ability to be an advocate for their patients. I mean, this is where it's come down to. As I said before on your show, it's about control.
Right.
It's never been about health care, and they are exercising it. Just think about how cynical this is. The administration has told insurance companies not to publish their 2015 rates until after the election. Does that give anybody pause? If they have to play these kind of games with the American population, then you know they're not on your side.
Absolutely. Doctor, I guess two words come to mind: repaired or repealed. What can we do with Obamacare? Can it be repaired to any extent, or does it have to be repealed?
The whole thing should be thrown out. But I'm now become a realist. I know that I, as a doctor, and I, as an American citizen, I'm not happy with the way the government is working because they don't seem to care what we think. I'm hoping that there will be a sea change to this evening in this election that will allow a new party to come in who actually will start listening to the American people. But I'm also a realist. I don't know if they're going to do that, and I'm not going to stand around and wait for the government to help me. So what people need to understand is that they have enormous power now. There are actually ways to work around Obamacare where you don't bankrupt yourself, where you can still see your doctor and everybody's happy. And that's free market medicine, direct pay medicine. And I've decided I want to try something different. I'm going to offer a subscription to my patients where they pay a flat fee per month, and it'll cover everything that I do for them in the office and significant discounts for going to the OR or doing anything else. Because I'm going to work around this system, and there's a growing number of doctors who are going to do this. And on the flip side, instead of insurance, there's medical cost sharing, which people have no clue about, which is allowed under the Affordable Care Act. And if they go to a website called libertyoncall.com, they will find that they can actually spend less money, see their doctor, not have some gatekeeper tell them that they're not allowed to have it, and they'll be paying less for the privilege. The most expensive, for example, policy there is $199 a month. For a total of $500 out of pocket, it'll cover $1 million per occurrence per year. No questions asked, as long as it's covered. And anything medical is covered. That's the difference. And what that is, Jeb, is people across the country who've decided they want to take personal responsibility. They want to pay for into a pot that everybody will share from, and they're volunteering to cover each other's medical expenses. And I feel so strongly about it that I joined as a member. And my employees are also going to join. I'm going to pay for them to join because I don't want to feed this beast. I think it's anti-healthcare. It's anti-American, quite frankly, if you really want to be honest about it.
Is there someone or a group working to possibly spread this great idea nationwide and pick up on the concepts that you're involved in? Is there somebody promoting this?
I know that Liberty HealthShare is the company that runs this system. I know they're advertising nationally now. It's been around for many years. I mean, we're talking over 15 years. But now, because of Obamacare, it's become necessary. And they're in the mindset of wanting to attract members who are liberty-minded. So it doesn't matter if you belong to a church or not, as long as you have self-responsibility and you actually do not want somebody spying on you. You don't want someone to tell you what you can't have. That's the kind of membership they're looking for. And I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with that. And as a doctor, any doctor listening to your show should know that this exists so they can opt out of the insurance scheme because it's rigged.
Absolutely. Doctor, everything you said, I remember 2-3 years ago since you've been on this program, has come to fruition, and we have seen an exact hit on Medicare. I think they've taken close to, $1 billion out of it in money away from seniors. How bad is the situation for the seniors right now?
My heart goes out to the seniors, frankly, because they're on the hook for many things. They've taken their ability to actually get care. They've promoted hospice and palliative care as some sort of answer instead of taking care of seniors who put their lives and their skin in the game, paid the price to be covered, and now they're telling you that something's wrong with you for asking for what you paid for, as if you're asking for something free. I mean, every senior that I know, has worked for this, has put their money aside, that's done the right thing, and now they're trying to pull out the rug from underneath them. I think I told you on the show last time that if you get admitted to a hospital under Medicare, if you get readmitted for the same diagnosis within 30 days, Medicare won't pay for it. And that means that may become a senior's bill. And for no fault of their own, you can have diseases that really are chronic, that you end up in the hospital because of no fault of your own or your doctor, and the government's going to decide that you didn't play the game right, so they're just going to change the rules. I mean, they're talking now about actually paying doctors to talk about end-of-life decisions. So you're going to be paid now to tell someone that you should just take morphine and be happy, as opposed to actually taking care of them. My dad was 89, went through a major surgery, and danced at his 90th birthday. And if he had been under the Medicare system, they would have told him, just be happy. You live 89 years and just die. That's unacceptable. I will not be a part of a system like that.
Do you have the information that you've been discussing this morning on your website, and could you share that with us?
Absolutely. If your listeners go to Elena, ELAINA, George.com, it's one of the links on my website, libertyoncall.com or libertyoncall.org, either one. And they can actually speak with somebody and see if this is right for them. Because if you have a real supplement, because I think the seniors would definitely need to know about this, because they're going to be pulling your coverage more than not. And the sad part about Medicare is that if you decide not to, you become eligible and you decide not to, go into the Medicare system, you can't get your Social Security. So they've rigged this game to make you play it no matter what. But there are options. You still have to take your Medicare, but maybe you can not do the Part D, things that can keep your prices low, and then add this as a supplemental, and that, again, is the most expensive. $157 is a lower policy, and it covers you at 70% for $125,000 per occurrence per year. So it's not about making money. It's a nonprofit, but it's about having an alternative pathway. And for people who are younger, direct pay is the way to go.
Absolutely.
If you go to aapsonline.org or iwantdirectcare.com, they'll actually see doctors in their area who will work with them so they can afford to be treated like a human being.
Doctor, it's interesting, since I started visiting with you on this radio program about Obamacare, and then visiting and taking notes with various people in the medical business, all the way from Salt Lake University Hospital way up here into the Northwest, I have yet to find one doctor that has ever been supportive of Obamacare.
Not a doctor who practices the Hippocratic Oath and actually loves what they do. You won't find a doctor who is pro-Obamacare. You never will, because it's not about medicine. It's about control. It's about deciding winners and losers, and it's crony-driven, corporate-driven medicine. That's complete oxymoron when you talk about healthcare.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work.
Let me ask you one other question. And lately, there's been a lot of concern over some of the hidden things in Obamacare. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I had about 2 or 3 calls yesterday, interestingly, that people are questioning about a secret gun provision in Obamacare, the legislation to where they want to treat it like it's a health problem, owning a gun. How familiar are you with that?
I'm not familiar with that, but I do know that the person that they wanted to put up for Surgeon General was definitely speaking in those type of terms. And that was no question they were leaning towards making this a health issue. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you do that, then you can come under the auspice of this Affordable Care Act. And they'll expand it no matter any way they can do it. If you have a diagnosis where you use an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medicine, I'm sure they were planning to, if not already, tie it to your mental status so that you can't be eligible to actually go for a gun permit. Anything they can do to cut out gun, to promote gun control, whether it's above board or below board, I'm sure they will try it. I'm not surprised.
Over the next 2 years, with Obama's kind of a lame duck time in office, but I'm more afraid of him and his powers with a pen and a phone over the next 2 years. How bad is this situation with Obamacare going to get? Now, let's assume that if the Republicans take over the Senate and they have control of the House, what do you think could be done to help alleviate some of the problems of Obamacare?
Well, they can stop funding it. That'd be number one. They could, draw down these regulations. I know that one they're talking about is getting rid of the surcharge for medical device tax. Mm-hmm. That's making, the ability for medicine to expand and actually grow smaller. Because no company is going to put money out and then not be able to sell their expertise. I mean, they need to really get rid of these gatekeepers that are designed to make these rationing panels. It should be the doctor and the patient that get to decide, and they should take the money away from advertising for Obamacare. They're spending so much money advertising on various stations, on Facebook, when it should be used for patient care.
Absolutely.
And they need to cut out the corporate interest and let the doctors and patients be the final arbiter of what constitutes health care.
Absolutely. Dr. Elena George, I just absolutely enjoy having you on the program because I learned so much. Thank you so much. God's blessings to you. And if I don't have a chance to talk to you before the holidays, happy Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
Thank you. Thank you. DrElenaGeorge.com. And I urge everybody, that's Dr. Elena, E-L-A-I-N-A, George, G-E-O-R-G-E, and all that information about how to try to get around and skirt Obamacare. And I really do appreciate that lady coming on the program. She's been on our show many, many times. It is time for the weather. And the weather, I'm past time, actually. I'm running late, as normal. The weather is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. And they are a locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years, and they guarantee everything they sell. Selling taste one bite at a time with smoked hams or smoked turkey right now for Thanksgiving. Better order yours right now at Scarrows Meats, 324-7657. Right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hi, everyone. Michael Rogers is head of the ranch. Forecast calls for clouds, and there's that sun out there, right? So should you buy the stock today? With the Magic Valley being the way it is, I'm going to stay with the forecast. But, take the sun anyway. Because it's sunny right now, and you got a nice morning, but look for clouds to roll in. The beauty of it is there's no rain associated in the forecast. It's going to be cloudy mainly for today and tonight, and they'll skedaddle out of here today, and you'll have a nice day for tomorrow going all the way to Saturday. Cooler temperatures, but warmer today than yesterday, 55 at the high. 32 for the overnight low, and then you'll be low to mid-60s for the daytime high all the way through the week. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Brought to you by our friends at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are selling taste one bite at a time. Delicious. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, Red?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hey, I just wanted to thank you for this forum that you make available to everybody to express themselves and the considerate manner in which you do. And I appreciate everybody's asking people to go out and vote. And I went out and voted this morning. I thought I was late getting there, but I found out that I was voter number 6.
Really?
Yeah. So... Anyway, if we can just encourage everybody to go vote, and I'm particularly moved by the movement in town of the Vote No Judge Hodges for the mothers. I'm very sensitive to that movement, and encourage everybody to consider it and get out and vote.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate your call and your thoughts and motivation to get everybody to go to the polls. Thank you, sir. God's blessings to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You know, he said it all. He said it all. I don't care what your opinions are. I don't care what your philosophies are. I don't care who your favorites are that you want to win. Vote. Go vote. It's critical, folks. We've got a lot of issues, and quite frankly, there's another motivating force for me. I just want to go to the polls and cast my vote and basically be a thumb in the eye of Obama and his ideology. I absolutely encourage everybody to go vote. Don't sit there tomorrow and say to your neighbors and friends, well, I didn't vote because I didn't want to take the time. I don't think it helped. Don't be that way, because we have some extremely close races. We have some people that in the past we've seen that one vote is extremely critical. And I urge you, please, look up at that flag, the red, white, and blue of the United States of America. And then remember all the blood, the sweat, and the tears that went into keeping that flag flying high on that flagpole. And then don't give me any excuse about not going to vote. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, by the way, too, weather is going to be changing and getting colder, and if you've got sprinkler systems and you haven't had them blown out yet, get on the list with Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Number to remember, 438-2485. And they'll blow out those lines, and everything will be just hunky-dory come next year. And don't forget, too, they can prune all your trees, fruit trees, ornamental trees, shade trees. Get your stumps pulled out of the ground. I'm telling you, they're good folks to know. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service at 438-2485. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I just had my papers tip over here. There we go. I got to get that fixed. I want to remind you, too, the Golden Heritage Senior Center. Now, write this down on your calendar, please. I want your help. The Golden Heritage Senior Center is going to be presenting the first annual Pilgrim's Pride Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday, November 20th, starting at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. It's only $5. Come on. $5 per ticket, and it's going to be turkey and ham and all the trimmings, and they're going to have door prizes, lots of door prizes, lots of raffles and games. Please, help support the seniors at the Golden Heritage Senior Center with this great big Pilgrim's Pride dinner. It's going to be, again, write it down, November 20th, starting at 5 and going till whenever, and it's going to be delicious. Please come over to the Golden Heritage Senior Center on Overland, November 20th. Oh, by the way, too, don't forget, with the weather possibly getting all nasty with ice on the road and snow and everything, don't forget to be ready for winter driving with the tires and the chains and everything to get you through all the mud and the muck and the ice and everything from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my, they've got everything over there for you to make sure you have safe wintertime driving. And don't forget the best in brake service, the best in brake service, the best in all the tire chains, all the batteries. When you turn the key, it's going to go, yes, sir, instead of whoop, whoop, whoop. Make sure you're ready to go. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome. Yep, hadn't moved. And the Twist family over in Paul, and John on Pole Line over in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. All 7 locations, the best with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Who have we got cooking for tomorrow? Well, tomorrow is going to be kind of a fun day. We're going to do a little recap during the program on all the voting. So, again, I urge you to go vote. And Doug Johnson's going to be on second hour from Colorado, and we're going to kind of take a look at the national scene as to what happened with some of the governor's races, etc. And then we're going to be talking to the Golden Heritage Senior Center about their Pilgrim's Pride dinner coming up on the 20th. And we've got some other great folks coming on the program, too, tomorrow for Wednesday right here at Zeb at the Ranch. We're going to leave you now, and Gina's going to take a little well-deserved rest from beating on the computer. Didn't have to do that today, and she's going to wear her tenny runners and just kind of kick back and enjoy the rest of the day. So am I. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zebeth Ranch on KBAR 1230 a.m. and then streaming live on the net, zebbell.com, all over the world. Thank you for your listenership. God bless you. The way things were are the way things ought to be.